Waalaikumsalam. I have started the stream, so we'll get started here in a couple moments. All right, so you can't eat pizza. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 6 pizzas for 4 people. So you have to eat a pizza and a half. Yes. We don't leave here until you eat your pizza and a half. Sister Asia, when are we doing our outdoor picnic?
I guess whenever Sister Khadijah, maybe, I don't know. I haven't asked.
I asked you to plan it.
I know. I didn't want to. I figured because you were the teacher that it was best that you asked. I didn't want to overstep.
No, I gave you, I said you had a great idea. Why don't you work on it? So ask Sister Khadija and the other sisters here when you guys want to do it and pick a nice weekend. And we'll do a class outside and have a little picnic or something.
Somewhere that has shade.
So do we want to do it potluck and have everybody bring something?
At least the sides and stuff. And maybe I'll bring like the burgers from Restaurant Depot or something.
That sounds good. Now that you bring everybody.
Yeah.
So we-
No, it's easy on me too. Get some fruit salad going, potato salad, macaroni,
Like cookout.
coleslaw. Yeah.
Really? Marinate?
Yeah, everything. Sister Diana will probably make like a little cake or something.
Now you make, now I have to, right?
Yeah, I definitely bring some like pasta salad and stuff like that.
What are our Caribbean sides?
So we do. So in my culture, we have 2 different potato salads. We have our own version of pasta salads. Fried plantains is very big. Rice and beans. Ooh, I can bring rice and beans. I make really good rice and beans. Rice and beans.
Well, there we go.
Like our side salad is literally just shredded cabbage, shredded red cabbage, shredded white cabbage, onions, scallions, and then we make our own dressing, which is olive oil, vinegar, lemon juice, a little honey, and like salt and pepper. It's really good though. And we have avocado slices on top.
So let's, post it, so we know what other people bring, so we don't duplicate.
Yeah, figure out a date. Talk to Sister Khadija, talk to the other sisters. When is a good date? Pick a venue. I think Rockwood Park has some like sheds and stuff, and it's like the same area here, so it's still pretty easy. Hmm?
You think about going there?
We could either go to Rockwood or somewhere else. You guys choose.
See, I don't know any places in Chesterfield. Is it? Do they have benches and stuff like that?
Yeah, they have pavilions. And they
You have to
have
reserve.
those for you to grill.
Do you have to reserve it, or is it just first come, first served?
For Rockwood, I think you just walk in.
Yeah. I think it's
Okay. Well, I'll ask her to.
unless you're a huge party.
Yeah.
We're not gonna be a huge
That'll be fun. Or should you wait until Eid?
No, that'll be too far out.
Oh, okay.
Eid is in June, right? So we still have another month. Yeah, about a month.
So you want to do it soon?
Yeah. And when Eid comes, we'll do an Eid party.
Okay.
There's no limitations on parties, right? All right, let's get started. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ba'd. So I asked everybody last week to do what?
To, make sure that we know the 6 pillars and the 5 pillars.
Yes, the 5 pillars of Islam and the 6 pillars of Iman, faith. Raise your hand if you memorized it. You might have?
I wasn't here.
Oh, okay.
I exactly memorize them.
All right, well, let's review them one more time. What are the 5 pillars of Islam? I know you know them, so I'm going to have Sister Anna and Sister Jaden do this one.
No, so 5 pillars.
All right, let's let Sister Jaden try.
Oh,
That's 3.
Belief in, no, I keep getting them mixed up, but belief in
The way you can keep them sorted is the 5 pillars of Islam are actions, and the pillars of Iman are the things we need to believe in. All right, so you got 3. You got zakat, which is obligatory charity, Som, which is fasting in the month of Ramadan, and you got Hajj, pilgrimage. You missed the first 2.
prayer,
Salat, good. And what do you say when you come into Islam? The Shahada, right? And it helps to memorize them in order. Shahada, Salat, Zakat, Som, Hajj. Right? It helps to memorize them in order. That way you can memorize them. See, you knew all 5. We just needed to guide you a little bit. But so next time you can memorize all 5 and not skip a beat. All right. And what are the 6 things every Muslim needs to believe in?
Allah,
First and foremost, Allah,
the angels,
angels,
the books,
books,
the prophets,
the prophets,
um, divine decree,
divine decree,
day of judgment.
day of judgment. Very good. Right? We need to believe in Allah, angels, books, the messengers, the day of judgment, and the divine decree. All right. What did we talk about last week? We talked about the divine decree, Qadr. Sister Asia, can you summarize what we talked about?
But the basis of it was that everything that happens to us, good or bad, is pleasure. And that we can't, but we also can't say that like some of the sins we do, for example, oh, I drank, so that's differentiating between like free will, like the only puts a sin in my hand, but God is doing it.
So everything that happens on the earth, Allah knew that it was going to happen before it happened. And Allah knows our final outcome, whether we are people of heaven or are people of hellfire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows all of that. But we have our own free will. Assalamu alaikum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many people do we have now? 5, 6, 7. All right. So we're down to basically 1 pizza each. So that, what did we say? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything that will happen to us and what our final outcome will be. But we as humans have free will to do good deeds and to not do good deeds. And we are responsible for the deeds that we do. We cannot sin and say, well, that was my qadr, that was ordained for me, so I had no choice over it.
Well, where does that fit in? Where does that fit in? Like, I know if you sin, it's of your own free will, and then you can also repent, make tova, and it'll be wiped off the plate. But how does that fit into cover though? What
So,
would have happened if you didn't, you know, I mean?
so the other part of it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that you were going to sin. Right? He didn't force you to sin, but he knew that you were going to sin. Your sin was your own choice. So you can't really blame that on anything but yourself. We also talked about some of the benefits of Qadr, belief in Qadr, and some of them were that it gives us confidence that no matter what situation we're in, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of it, whether the situation is good, bad, it's a hardship. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of it, and we're not searching for a way out. We know the way out or the way of betterment is through Him. It also allows us to be free of the past. Whatever has happened has happened. It was the will of Allah, and we move on from it. And we don't sit here and think, well, if I had done this or if I had done that, something would have been different. No, this was the way it was supposed to be, and we have to move on and focus on the present and focus on the future. It also allows us to have confidence in that whatever we do, whatever we're trying to do, it's the result of it is in the hands of Allah. So we just have to go out and supplicate to Him and try our best. All right? Any questions up to this point before we start something new? No? Okay. So we are on page 38. Factors which nullify Iman in Islam. What are the things that violate the belief in Iman, our belief system, and what violates our religious beliefs, our Islam? You can kind of compare this to wudu. What are the things that break wudu? There are certain things that break wudu, right? Right? If somebody falls asleep, totally, that breaks your wudu. If somebody uses the restroom, that breaks your wudu. You have to now do it again. So what are the things that actually break your Islam? So we need to know these things. One second. So we need to know these things so we can avoid them. Yes, your question.
I've heard it said that where it was explained in the Union Hadith that I read, if you fall into a light sleep, you have to fall into a heavy, deep sleep.
What did I say?
I don't remember.
I said if you fall asleep totally.
That meaning
Totally meaning like you're completely asleep. It's not like you're just kind of dozed off. So it's not a light sleep. You're like, the word is actually drowned in sleep. This is how they say it in Arabic. So you're so asleep that you don't know what's going on, right? We have extra books in the green box, in the red box, if you need to borrow one. Okay. Page 38. Who would like to read?
I'll read. Factors which nullify Iman in Islam. There are things which nullify Iman, faith, belief, just as there are things which nullify wudu. If a person does any single one of them, he loses his state of ritual purity. The same is true with belief. The nullifiers of belief can be classified into 4 categories. First category, denial of the love's existence, or deprecating and calumniating him.
Okay, so what that means is denial of the Lord's existence, meaning those people who deny, atheists who deny the existence of God, or deprecating, meaning accepting that He exists but making Him less than, or criticizing him, um, and diminishing his powers through our words, right? Not diminishing power, but our belief states that we don't believe in his powers, we don't believe in him. So somebody who says something like that, that is denial of the Lord, and it is
angry with what happened in your life, angry with God.
No.
not necessarily that. This is even more basic. Think atheism, right? Atheists, or even those who kind of like joke about God's existence, like, yeah, he exists, but he's not, but they don't see him as powerful.
Would this count for people who like I know people who like want to convert, like people who have converted to Islam, but they're like sometimes they still question, sometimes they still doubt, even though like they're trying to think to believe it, and they're kind of like I don't know, like sometimes they're questioning if this is real and if God's real. Would that count as this? Or
The denial of his existence, yeah, doubting his existence would, um, doubting his existence would, yes, nullify our faith.
You know, like some things are difficult for people to do, right? And then the person, right, they may be Muslim, right? And be like, well, you know, Allah is not that strict that way. That's you, mom. You're strict, but I'm gonna do this because I don't believe that Allah is gonna be that strict on me.
But that's not denying Allah.
So if you're not denying that Allah,
So what the first part is denying Allah, either denying his existence, that he doesn't exist, or diminishing him in such a way, or doubting his existence, right? This doesn't, I mean, what if people disagree on certain actions? That's a different thing. That doesn't throw somebody. That doesn't mean they've um, gone outside of the faith. But denying Allah, saying Allah doesn't exist, would constitute disbelief. Okay. Second category.
Denial of Allah's right to be worshipped or worshiping anything or anyone along with him.
Okay. So denying Allah's right to be worshipped is the second thing. So a person says that Allah exists, but we don't need to worship him. Or says that we worship Allah, but we worship the Son of Mary, or a certain saint, a certain animal, or anything like that. So worshiping anyone the way we would worship Allah. This is the second nullifier of faith. So if we worship anything the way we should worship Allah, along with him, in a minimal way even, then this is denial of his right to be worshipped. Number 3.
Denial of any of Allah's names or attributes established in the Quran and Sunnah, or deprecation of them.
Okay, so denial of the names and attributes that are established in the Quran and Sunnah. So, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran that he sees and he hears. If somebody were to say that no, he does not see or hear us, then this would be denying his characteristic of what he said about himself. And since it's authentically said in the Quran and it's authentically mentioned in the Sunnah, that's not something we can deny. So denial of his names and attributes is denial of him. And fourth,
Denial of the role of Muhammad as the messenger of Allah, or deprecation of his message.
okay? So somebody says, I believe in Allah, I believe in all the prophets, but I don't believe in the Prophet Muhammad, or I don't believe in his message. This also nullifies our faith. Why? Because it nullifies the first thing we had to do when we come into Islam, which is the declaration of faith. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I bear witness there's no one worthy of worship except for Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Peace and blessings be upon him. So if we deny the first step, we deny that shahada by saying that Muhammad is not a messenger, Muhammad is not a prophet, then we have denied Islam in its totality.
But if they say they still believe in the Bible, right? In the Bible, it talks about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they believe in that, would it be just that they're ignorant?
If someone is a Muslim, if someone is a Muslim, to keep being a Muslim, they have to believe that Muhammad is a messenger of Allah, without any doubt in that. Any questions on these four things? Are these four things we can memorize? So next week, I'm going to ask you three questions, right? The 5 pillars of Islam, the 6 things we need to believe in, and the 4 things that nullify a religion. And if you don't know where the answers are, well, page 38 has the four things that nullify a religion, and was it page 11? Page 16 and 17 have the rest of it. Page 16 has the 5 pillars of Islam, and page 17 has the pillars of Iman, things we need to believe in. And we all know these things, but it's just helpful to memorize them because we're studying them so that we can understand them in more depth. Right? Okay. Any questions so far? All right, so now the author is going to go a little bit deeper into these 4 categories. All right. All right, page 39. Who would like to read except for Sister Diana? 39. Denial of the existence of Rabb nullifies Iman.
Denial of existence. Both have been. This first category encompasses several types. Number 1, pure atheism, such as the belief of communists who deny that the universe has been created and say there is no God and life is a purely material phenomenon. They attribute the creation and all actions to pure chance or nature, but forget the one who created and the chance and the nature. As Allah said, Allah is the creator of all things, the creator of one thing, trustee, disposal of affairs, guardians, and over all things. This category of disbelief is more hard than their apostasy than their polytheists. Polytheists, Arabs of the post-Islamic period, even Satan himself, as those polytheist Arabs did admit the existence of their creator, as the Quran states about them saying, and if you ask them who created them, they will surely say Allah. And the Quran mentions statement of Satan. Iblis said, I am better than you. You created me from fire and you created me from clay. It is an act of disbelief for a Muslim to say nature created something or that it came into being by chance.
Okay, so the denial of the Lord has certain types. So the first is pure atheism, where somebody outright denies that God exists. So we see this a lot when we study biology, right? Where they say that everything happened by natural selection or by this or by that, and they deny that there's a God who created. Or people who are atheists who deny the existence of any higher power or God. And then the author points out that the belief of the atheists is further from the true faith than the pagan Arabs or even the devil himself. Because the pagan Arabs, if you ask them, especially at a time of need, especially said when they were on boats and it was in a storm, they would call out to Allah alone. And even Satan himself accepted that Allah created. He doesn't deny the existence of Allah. So people who are atheists, they are the furthest ones from the truth because they deny the existence of Allah altogether. Okay. Number 2 on the bottom of page 39.
Or the person claims to be the God, the fact that Sparrow claims saying, I mean, Lord Most High.
So the second type of denial is what Pharaoh said, that I am your Lord the Most High. He claimed himself to be the Lord. And this was the way of a lot of kings of the past and a lot of cult leaders today who claim that so and so man or so and so person is the Lord, right? Um, and this is one of the things about the Nation of Islam, who had claimed that Pharaoh Muhammad was Allah incarnate. He was Allah on earth. And they claim to worship him. So this is denial of Allah. Number 3. Go ahead.
Or to claim that there is a great saint called Qadr in Sufi terminology, which literally means axis of creation, for control over what happens in the universe, even if this claim is accompanied with admissions that Allah, the sovereign Lord, exists. People who have this belief are in a worse condition than the idol worshippers before Islam, who used to admit that Allah is the sole controller of the affairs of the universe, as is indicated by God's statement. Say, who provides for you from the sky and from the earth? Or who owns hearing and sight? And who brings out the living from the dead and brings out the living from the living? And who disposes the affairs? They will say, Allah. Say, will you then not be afraid of Allah's punishment for setting up rivals in worship with Allah?
So some people claim that there are great saints and people of the past who have control over what happens in the universe. So to say this type of thing, to say that somebody has control over what happens in the universe, is disbelieving in Allah's lordship, because it is our belief as Muslims that Allah alone has control over what happens in the universe. He is the only one who creates. He is the only one who controls what happens, whether it's good or bad. So if we give that to somebody else, then this is disbelieving in Allah's lordship. You guys are late. You're missing all the good stuff.
I was at the office until 6 o'clock.
All right. Number 4, who would like to read?
Or the statements of some Sufis that Allah pervades in His creation, or became incarnate in it. The Sufi Ibn Arabi, who is buried in Damascus, said, "The Lord is a slave, and the slave is a lord. I only wish I knew which one is the Mukhalif." Mukhalif is a basic term of Sharia terminology. It refers to the essential role of the adult seen human being, that he or she is charged by Allah with a series of duties and responsibilities, orders and prohibitions, and he will be questioned on the basis of how well he discharged his responsibilities. And the transgressor of the Sufism has stated, and the dog and the pig is nothing other than our deity, nor is Allah other than a monk in a church. And Halaf, a Sufi of Baghdad, stated, I am he, Rab, and he is I, on the basis of his statement, which he would not retract. The scholars agreed that he should be executed as an apostate. High exalted is Allah above what such people say.
Okay, so some people claim that Allah has incarnated into everything, that everything we see is Allah. So that the person himself is Allah, and the one that he's worshiping is Allah, as the statement says. And he said, I don't know which one is the one who is responsible. And another statement, he said, the dogs and the pigs and everything is our Lord. So this type of perverse belief came from other religions, actually. It came from Hinduism, it came from Greek philosophy, where they believed that the essence of God is inside everything physically. So there's no difference between the creation and the creator.
So this is attributed to Ibn Arabi,
Yes.
and who was he?
He was, so this is just an example of a person. He was a well-known person of the past. The names are not that important. It's the ideology that's important. So if anybody were to say that Allah is in everything and believe that, like some of them said, that the people themselves are Allah and the creator is Allah, this is an act of disbelief. Because you're disbelieving in Allah being the Lord. You have something, your question?
Yeah, it just clicked on like the different groups, like the 1%ers or 5%ers, whichever, I can't remember.
Arm, leg, arm, head.
What's that mean?
They don't know about the 5%ers?
Yeah, 5%ers.
They don't know about the 5%ers?
Okay, I'm sorry.
So today's mathematics?
You just say today's mathematics, I'm gonna fight
You
you.
they used to say that we are Allah, because look at how we're made. Arm, leg, arm, head, and it spells Allah. L-L-A-H. So they said that we're Allah. Arm, head, right?
I was gonna say, even Arabi, is he not?
1 second. So yes, people who have this type of belief, no matter how they came up with it, this is an act of disbelief. We cannot say we're gods. We cannot say we're part of God. Yes, we cannot say we're a child of God. So let me explain. When people say they're a child of God, a lot of them don't say that they are divine. They're just saying that they're close to God. But even saying that, we shouldn't say it. And actually, this is how people ended up saying that Jesus was the Son of God. Because the terminology back then was he was the Son of God, meaning that he was so pious, he was very close to God. And that's why they would say he's the Son of God. But then people made it that he was the begotten Son of God, which is an act of disbelief.
So this is also, sorry, last one. This is also, sometimes people are like, oh, God favors me, I favor.
No, God favors me is okay. Somebody can say God favors me, God has blessed me, that type of thing. That doesn't attribute any type of divinity to themselves. The thing we have to understand is divinity, which means godliness, is only for Allah. Nothing else is like God. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Because if you have questions, I want to answer them. Yes.
Even Arabi, he was pre, what is this kingdom called? The Turks?
Ottomans?
Pre-Ottoman. But isn't he considered the father of Sufism?
I don't know about the history, and that's not what the subject is right now. So but like I said, the names are not important. It's the ideology that's important.
But that's where it started.
But if we understand the ideology, we can avoid it. If we don't remember the names, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
There's nothing, who cares about the names? But it's the ideology that other things are divine, other things are godly, except for Allah. That ideology is one of the nullifiers of faith. If somebody believes like that, then they have approached an area which is outside of Islam. Okay, where are we? Okay, we're talking about shirk.
Sure, polytheism and worship, no God. The second category includes denial of Allah, the object of worship, or ascribing partner along with Allah. It too has various manifestations. Number one, those who worship the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, and Satan or any other created being or in the worship of Allah, who created all these things which have no power to benefit and multiply. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and from among his signs are the night and day, and the sun and the moon. Prostrate not to the sun nor to the moon, but prostrate to Allah who created them, if you really worship.
Okay, so we talked about the four nullifiers of faith. The first was denial of Allah's existence, like the atheists do, right? Or saying that Allah exists in other things. That was number one. Number two was denying that Allah's right to be worshipped alone. Either saying that, can you make me a cup of coffee? Either saying that we do not need to worship Allah, or saying that we can worship other things along with Allah.
But people who really into the earth, Mother Earth, or Indians, right? Like we Americans. Or is that because it's beforehand and it doesn't, no sin upon them?
Why wouldn't there be sin upon them?
If it was before them,
No, because we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent messengers
to the Indians?
to every nation, whether they be in Australia or Africa, the Native Americans, Eskimos. Every nation had their prophets and their messengers. We may not know the names of them, they may not have been mentioned to us, but every nation had their messengers.
You know that email said something different to her.
That not every nation knows Islam, but that's like purposeful, like blotting out. I think he wanted you to see it. That's what I was told.
That's incorrect. Every nation had messengers and prophets that was sent to them, and it was up to them whether they. It's way too much half and half. It's fine. I can't even say. What am I supposed to even say, bro? Can we leave the salutations and things? Well, we could do this after class.
Okay, sorry. Our class should be longer. She's saying our class is too short.
Well, if you come on time, then you can get all of it too.
And see,
I have argued for the case. She said, "Class is too short, it's too short."
I'm just going by you guys.
But we're speaking, so let's make it longer.
All right.
Maybe we can.
All right.
start a little later.
But I also need you then to retain this information when I ask questions, be able to answer them. All right. Everybody, though. Your army, your team is only as good as the weakest person. So anybody who's new, the people who have been here longer need to help them catch up. Okay. So we're talking about polytheism. And that polytheism in worship. So anybody who says Allah doesn't need to be worshipped, anybody who worships other than Allah, then this nullifies Islam. And there are different categories in that. For example, those who worship the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, or the devil, or any other created being, and abandon the worship of Allah altogether. Right? So there's people out there who used to worship the sun, the people still do, and they don't worship Allah at all. Or they worship something else and don't worship Allah at all. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ لَيْلًا وَنَهَارًا وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ. And from amongst his signs of the night and the day and the sun and the moon, لَا تَسْجُدُوا لِلشَّمْسِ. And do not prostrate to the sun, وَلَا لِلْقَمَرِ. وَلَا لِلْقَمَرِ. And do not prostrate to the moon. وَاسْجُدُوا لِلَّهِ الَّذِي خَلَقَهُنَّ إِن كُنتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. And prostrate to Allah alone, who created them, if you really worship Him. All right, what's the second part of this?
Those who worship Allah and worship along with Him the Son of His creation, such as saints, as embodied in idols, grave worship, etc. The Arab idol worshippers before Islam were of this category, as they used to call upon Allah only in times of hardship and pressing need, and they worship others in times of ease, as the Quran describes them. And when they embark on the ship, they invoke Allah, making their faith pure to Him only. And when He brings them safely to land, behold, they give a share of their worship to others. They are characterized as al-mushrikun, those who associate and achieve partner with Allah, even though they made supplication to Allah alone, when they were afraid of drowning at sea, because they didn't stay like that. Instead, they called upon others after these things.
Okay, so the first category was those who 100% worshipped other than Allah. Right? They didn't worship Allah. They gave Allah 0% and they gave 100% somewhere else. The second category is those who worship other than Allah and Allah and Allah. So they mix it. Sometimes they worship Allah and sometimes they worship other than Allah. And this is still not acceptable because we worship Allah alone. So,
Be like the Christians, how they worship Jesus.
so they worship the Father, the Lord, and they worship the Son, and they worship a whole bunch of other things. So this is something like that because they're making a partner with Allah, and Allah does not take partners. All right? Or like we mentioned before, people will say that so-and-so saints have control over what happens in the future or what happens on the earth. This is worshiping other than Allah. Or going to the graves of certain saints and worshiping them. Or statues or idols. Right? Zoroastrians? Yes, that type of thing too. But that falls on another category altogether, yeah. So anybody who worships anything other than Allah, Allah doesn't need his worship. Allah does not share. You either worship him alone or it doesn't count. Now, what's called the minor shirk, and it's not mentioned here, but I'll mention it anyways. That Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, I fear for you ar-riya, the minor shirk, which is what? Showing off. So, I pray because I want to impress certain brother or certain sister, so I pray really nice. But I normally don't pray like that. I didn't pray for Allah. I was praying for the people. Or I try to be generous and, I'm giving things out of my pocket. Not for the sake of Allah, but just to impress people. This is showing off, and this is a minor form of shirk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. So this is why we always have to look at our intentions and make sure our intentions are correct. Because this is something that creeps in a lot. Somebody,
Especially the society we live in now.
especially for a society of social media where anything you do, you need to post about it. So if I did something good, I post about it. I went for Umrah, I'm taking selfies in front of the Kaaba. Or, I wake up for Tahajjud, I wake up for Fajr, and I post on Facebook, hey, Fajr gang, wake up. Right? We do all these things, and it's a form of showing off.
Babe, can I say something?
Yes.
If I go to the Kaaba, I'm taking pictures, and I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm at the Kaaba. You know what I mean?
But why?
Because it's so mashallah.
Yeah, but leave that between you and Allah.
Yeah, it's mashallah between you and Allah. You're not there to to show people you're at the top of this whole journey, that whole experience is a
Yours
bonding
is
moment between.
It's for you and Allah. Every act of worship, every act of worship should be between you and Allah. We don't need to know about all the good things that you do. The same way you don't tell us all the sins you do, right?
And not just that, right? It's like, because we don't know if when we go to do Umrah or Hajj, we don't know if Allah is going to accept that. And it could be that one, what up, y'all? Kaaba gang. Like,
Kaaba gang is crazy.
you don't want.
That is the
like, you
craziest
don't
thing I've
want
ever
to,
heard.
Like, you understand? Like,
I've said that.
yeah, you don't want, yeah, you want Allah to accept your efforts and your Umrah or your Hajj, and maybe that one thing
Could be showing off to people. And if we're showing off to people, then we're not going to get the reward that we should be. We may lose reward altogether.
Showing off, right, is generally like, look at me, shiny me, I'm big, you're little, like to make somebody feel smaller. Because that person has like something wrong with their heart. Because it's not in somebody who shows off, they're doing this to lift their own self up, because really inside they feel crummy. So the person who is not showing off and is sharing a joyous moment, even like the birth of a child, right? Or just anything like you first of all, the new beginnings, the rebirth. This is a big deal that we have this. We didn't have it, and I remember when we didn't. And to share it with everybody, a piece of it is pride, like happiness, joyful, and it's something that is there for people. And it's something as big as being in the crowd, we talk about it here, and then making it a reality. This would not be showing off, not for all people. It would be to share something most beautiful that they have with others. So if the intention, right, I'm just asking a question, you're all wrong, right? But if the intention is mashallah, is it still showing off? Is it still something that we should be very concerned with? And then just like not sharing?
If you think about, I'll keep saying things that was like the people who take their shahada, so many people are recording that moment, post on Instagram, I take my shahada. I guess, I don't know, that's not showing, you're showing off that yes, you're worshiping a very merciful, amazing God, right? But how is that any different? That technically should be a moment between you and Allah only, right? You're accepting that He's the one and only, but at the same time, you're just showing like your gratitude or something.
This is
So
very
I guess the
humbling.
question is the intention behind it.
You could be sharing it with tears of like complete awe of the Creator because He accepted you to make it there.
Yeah, you might not accept it in Africa, but He made it possible for you to be. So like, I guess.
I'm just asking.
Intention, right?
I'm just asking. If I shouldn't share it, because I'm gonna try to make cards, and I would have shared it before this moment in time. But if it's something that is not supposed to be shared, then inshallah, I think that. Right,
So-
I had coffee. Sorry.
So one of the first hadiths we read was innamal a'malu bin niyat. Our actions are based on our intentions. So if somebody's intention is to encourage other Muslims to do things. So for example, when we go and distribute food in Monroe Park and we take pictures of it and share it with people, the intention behind that is so that other people can get involved. But if my intention is to show how good a person I am, then that's wrong on me. So it's up to my intentions. But the warning I'm giving is that a lot of times when we share something on social media is because we want the likes and is because we want the attention. And if that starts becoming the thing, then we're going to lose the piety of those deeds. And it's better to keep it to yourself. But again, it all comes down to actions being upon intentions. If, let's say, you have a lot of non-Muslims on your Facebook and you kind of want to just show them what Muslims are doing that's positive and you're using it as a form of dawah, again, that's a good intention. Or to encourage others or to teach others. But it all boils down to your intention. Intention should not be showing off. Intention should not be getting attention from others or getting others to say good things about me.
Not only that, but I heard, especially for the sisters, they really are not supposed to be seen on things like social media or taking pictures of themselves.
That's another topic altogether that the sisters need to protect their modesty. Okay. Where were we? Number 3. Number 3. Who's next to read? Well, if you guys want class to be longer, then you all have to participate. Somebody just took off their glasses, like, I'm not reading.
Number three, okay. Since Allah was displeased with the idol worshiping Arabs before Islam, rather than he branded them kafir, the disbelievers, and ordered his prophet to fight them because they called upon others besides Allah at the time of ease, and he didn't accept their wholeheartedness when they called upon him alone in hardship, and he labeled them mushrikeen. What we can say about certain Muslims today who resort to dead saints at the time of ease as well as the time of hardship, and they ask for them of them only what Allah has the power to bestow, like curing the sick and granting sustenance and guidance, and they forget the creator of those saints, whereas he is the only one who cures, the sustainer, and the guide. And those dead people have no power at all and cannot even hear those who are calling upon them, as Subhanahu wa Ta'ala stated. And those whom you invoke or call upon instead of him own not even a kipla, the thin membrane over the date stone, if you invoke or call upon them. They hear not your call, and if in case they were to hear, they could not grant it, your request to you. On the day of resurrection, they will disown your worshiping them, and none can inform you, O Muhammad, like him who is the all-knower of each and everything.
Okay, I'll stop you right there and then we'll continue. So we mentioned that the pagan Arabs, that they worshipped Allah and they worshipped him alone on a time of hardship. And specifically it mentions, for example, if they were on ships and there was a storm, they did not call out to their idols. They called out to Allah alone. And when they got back to safety, then they called upon their idols. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not accept their acts of worship that were for him alone at that time, because they mixed it with worshiping idols later on. He did not accept it. He called them disbelievers, even though they worshipped him alone during those times. You had a question?
Yeah, when you said that, right, that they worship Allah in times of trouble and then they worship their other idols. I can remember times being a Christian when things were bad, I would be all like praying. But when things were good, I was buying jewelry, and I think to myself, like, this was almost like that. Like, I'm worshiping money, I'm worshiping, like, I'm not giving the same attention to Allah in the good times as I would the bad, because I was focusing on other things. Like, I made other things a priority rather than keeping that same energy when things were bad.
While this is definitely a negative trait that we forget, or we lessen our worship of Allah when things are going rosy, that doesn't fall into making partners with Allah, right? It's something a little bit different. Because here they were literally worshiping something else other than Allah, right? So definitely we should always be consistent with our faith in Allah, and not forget him in times of prosperity.
Sorry, read a hadith the other day, and I hope I'm correct, sorry. It's basically saying like the person who calls someone a kafir is just like killing them. Like you shouldn't call someone a kafir because only Allah knows. Right?
Right. So this is not something that we as people can pass judgment on somebody's heart.
Yeah, cannot say you're.
We don't go out saying that so and so is a kafir. Um, this is something that's left up to bigger scholars and judges. That's not something I want to take on my shoulders, right? You'll notice in this book, we're talking about ideologies. We're not talking about um, specific people here. We're talking about ideologies. So the ideology or the actions of worshiping other than Allah, yes, that is disbelief. Now, if somebody displays some of these things, should I call that person a disbeliever? No, I should keep that to myself. I should try to explain to them why what they're doing is incorrect and correct them and bring them back to the straight path. But getting up and calling them a disbeliever or a kafir or a mushrik or labeling them with all these different things, this is not correct. This is not good manners. This is not from what Muslims should be.
You know this part she just read about on the day of judgment, those idols or whoever else they were praying to. They will say that they had they disassociate themselves. What's ironic is that there's a scripture in the Bible where Jesus says that they will say, we prayed in your name. And he said, I never knew you. I never told you to do that.
And it says that in the Quran as well. That Allah will question Isa, did you command the people to worship you and your mother? And he said, no, by Allah, I only commanded them to worship you alone. And this is not an admonition on him. This is to show them that, look, the one you are worshiping never told you to worship him and his mother. And he's saying it right in front of you. So some people will. Is there a question?
Yes.
Yes. Then ask it.
So when we read in English, right? And we read something that says, "He and I are one." When it speaks to Isa and about the peace of him, when they read that in the Bible.
What does that mean?
Right. So because it's not in the Aramaic and the Hebrew and or the Latin, and they don't speak it, they're reading it in English, just like we're reading it in our English. And then, but it's not. But we have the actual Arabic with it. The Bible's not set up like that to have the original language with it, so you can reflect on it. Reason being, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserves the Islam and then has it in the hearts, and then we have our Hafiz. The thing is, right, my questioning, just so that you know where this is coming from, when somebody reads Jesus saying, he and I is in one, because my thing is, there's 25 different accounts in the Bible where Jesus goes to pray on the mount to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they're confused because it says he and I are one in the English, which I think if it was in the original text, it wouldn't have the same meaning. It would be more fruitful, and they would see that he might be saying that I'm in the concordance with the Creator and like a subservient to him. But it doesn't say that in the English. I guess that I want you to say something about that.
Well, as far as the Bible goes, we know that it's gone through not only different translations, but different additions and subtractions. And this is why, as Muslims, if we have time to study anything, we should be studying the Quran and the Hadith. We don't need to be studying the Bible and Old Testament when we know that they have been altered and that these are the words of man and not the words of God. So we should not really spend our time studying the Bible. That is number one. Leave that up to certain scholars who will study that as a form of dawah. But those scholars have studied the Quran and Hadith enough that they will not fall into confusion. So as people who are still students, we should not be opening and studying the Bible. We should be opening the Quran. We should be opening the prophetic tradition and studying that or books based on that so that we strengthen our concepts of Islam. That's number one. If there are translations that say he and I are one, and then people make that to say that Jesus is God, of course that is wrong. The Quran refutes that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says that Jesus is his creation. Jesus is a man, a prophet, a messenger who we respect and love, but we do not give him any godly attributes. So here in the verse, it says that those who people call upon, because people call upon other than Allah, and they call upon people who have died and say that, oh, so-and-so, grant me a child, or oh, so-and-so, grant me sustenance, or grant me a way out of this hardship. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to that. He says, those who you invoke or call upon instead of him, cannot even create a kitmir. A kitmir is if you take a date, that little like skin that's around the date. It's something very small and worthless. They can't even create that. Nor can they hear your recall. If you invoke them, they cannot hear your call. And even if they were to hear you, they could not grant your request to you. And on the day of resurrection, they will disown your worshiping them. And none can inform you like him who is the all-knower of everything. So these people who worship saints or worship Jesus or worship somebody other than Allah, they will disown those people who worship them. They cannot hear you. And even if they could hear you, they can't help you. And on the day of judgment, they'll disown you. So what's the use of worshiping anybody other than Allah? All right, let's read the rest of this so we can wrap this up. Where did we stop?
I think here, this verse is explicit to the effect that the dead cannot hear those who call upon him, and explicit in stating that their supplication is made or sure. Some of them might say, we don't believe that these saints and righteous people have the power to benefit or harm. We only take them as intermediaries who will intercede with Allah on our behalf, and through them we get closer to Allah. Our reply to them is that the idolaters before Islam used to hold a similar belief, as is mentioned in the Quran. And they worship besides Allah things that hurt them not, nor profit them. And they say, these are our intercessors with Allah. Say, do you inform Allah of that which he knows not in the heavens and on the earth? Glorified and exalted is he above all that which they associated as partners with him. This verse is explicit in proving that whoever worships and supplicates other than Allah, he is a mushrik, even if he believes that those other beings cannot benefit or harm, but only see them as intercessors. Allah said about the idolaters and those who take
Awliya. You should know that name.
Besides him, say we worship them only that they may bring us nearer to Allah. Verily, Allah will judge between them concerning that where they may differ. Truly, Allah guides not him who is a liar and a disbeliever. This verse is explicit in proving the disbelief of those who call upon other than Allah with the intention of getting thereby closer to Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said, because supplication is worship.
Okay. So some people say that we are not worshiping these saints. We are not worshiping these idols other than Allah. They were pious people. We are using them to intercede with us in Allah. kind of like, oh Father, I have sinned, right? People go into the priest, they admit their sins, or they supplicate, or do things for the priest, and the priest is an intercessor between them and Allah. So now they are saying that these idols or these saints or whatever, they were pious people, and we worship them only so they can intercede between us and Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they worship not those they worship besides Allah things that hurt them not, nor profit them. And they say these are intercessors with Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say, do you inform of Allah that which He knows not in the heavens and on the earth? Glorified is and exalted is He who is above all which they associate partners with Him. If these people were intercessors and worthy of worship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have told us that. But He did not. He said, وَادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Call upon me and I answer your call. And He says, call upon me. And He said that I'm close to you. I'm closer to you than your jugular vein. So we call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. We don't need anybody in between. This is the beauty of Islam. That we don't need anybody in between. We don't need to call on anybody else. Our relationship is directly with Allah. So these people who say that they're have intercessors or saints who are more pious, who are between them and Allah, this is a form of shirk. And supplication is an act of worship. Making dua, making the supplications that we do, asking for ease out of your hardship, asking for blessings, asking for sustenance, asking for a new job, asking for children. All of this type of supplication is an act of worship and should be directed to Allah alone and not to anything other than Allah. Yes, and we'll stop there.
So, when I haven't seen it in person, but when they go to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's grave, and they pray, explain that to me, because there are some sects of Islam that do that, and it's very important for us to stay clear of this type of thing. Like, it's not just in Christianity that they do this or other religions, it's also in some sects who are misguided.
So even for the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, the correct thing is to go to his grave. We say salam upon him, and we send our salutations upon him, and that's it. We cannot ask him to help us. We cannot ask him to intercede for us. We cannot ask him to grant us children or get us out of hardship or bless us with sustenance or bless us with a new job. We cannot ask him for anything. We can only ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
But it said that He hears us.
He hears us when we send our salams on him.
Correct. And
But that doesn't mean that we can ask him to help us.
correct, except for remember, we did read something else that said the dead can't hear.
So this is something that's special for him, that he can hear our salams, and we do not know exactly what that even means. It could mean that he hears it live. It could mean that the angels give those salams, pass them along to him. So, but if he hears our salutations and blessings, then it's limited to that. We cannot expand on that and bring in other things. Any other questions before we wrap up? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. You said you felt warm, so I turned down the AC. I turned up the AC for you, and now you're like, nope, I need a jacket.
No.
This is a wardrobe malfunction for the environment.
Oh, I apologize.